Good morning everyone. So today I'm coming at you with a little bit of an impromptu, unplanned, not really get ready with me because I have already done all of my base makeup and I'm just going to proceed with like the blush, bronzer, highlighter and eyeshadow palette. And the reason I wanted to do this quick video with you is because I remembered that someone asked me a while ago on my Instagram to please do another look with the NARS Climax palette because they were struggling. I found that very surprising because I find this a relatively easy eyeshadow palette to work with. I have actually done already 2 looks with it. I've actually done a look with the greens and the blue. So I am today going to focus a little bit more on the neutral. So it will be a relatively boring, no-brainer eyeshadow look, but there is one point that I would like to make later on when I'm applying the eyeshadow that I think might be something that you will be struggling with, that is very easy to solve. And you know, I also have not used this eyeshadow palette in a while and I really enjoy it. And additionally, I'm going to be having a relatively long day today because after work I'm going to have pizza with a friend of mine from work. I'm taking, by the way, the diffused bronze light from Hourglass. And I usually prefer to do more chill neutral looks when I'm going to have a really long day. And by a really long day, I mean I'm going to wear the makeup for over 12 hours. And while my eyeshadow tends to last pretty well up till the 12-hour mark, after that it starts to, you know, crease and there's really not much I can do about it. So I prefer to wear more chill neutral eyeshadows on days like this because I know that the eyeshadow is eventually going to start creasing, and as you would imagine, colorful eyeshadow tends to crease much less flattering compared to a neutral. A neutral which will just kind of like gather in your crease, you can remove it and then no one will really notice or be bothered. As you would imagine, with the colorful eyeshadow, that's just much more noticeable. For blush, I'm going to take Paradise Venus from Pat McGrath. Again, I'm going to have a very long day, and my Pat McGrath blushes are my trusty blushes when it comes to longevity. They just stay forever and ever. Unfortunately, I still have to wear a mask quite a lot at work. The rest of the country is basically going to forget that COVID was around because as of yesterday we have absolutely no restrictions anymore. The only restrictions are sort of like the international restrictions pertaining to airports and flights, where you still have to wear a face mask, but for the rest of the Netherlands no restrictions count anymore, except for hospitals where they're still extremely panicky about COVID. And unfortunately, even though I don't really do anything with patient care, the research lab where I work at is located in a hospital, like an academic hospital building, so they are super panicky about it. Like across of us there is a research facility and university buildings. All of them already stopped wearing masks and abolished the 1.5 meter rule like a month ago, over a month ago probably at this point. However, we are still living in 2020. And to be honest with you, I find that really annoying because after 2 years of wearing that thing on an almost daily basis, I'm like super fucking done with it. For highlighter, I'm going to be taking my beautiful Lunar Nude highlighter from Pat McGrath Labs. So all of that rambling was to say that because I still wear a face mask, my face products tend to wear off a bit quicker than they would otherwise. Like, otherwise I wouldn't really worry about what I put as a face product because most of my face makeup tends to last really well throughout the day with the, you know, the way that I apply it. However, now with the masks, things are a little bit more risky, especially when it comes to like cream products. So I am putting my most long-lasting products today because of course I would like to, you know, look impeccable for as long as possible. I'm going to spritz my sponge with Fix Plus, which is how I set my makeup. I don't like to spritz my face. Alright, so like I said, we're doing sort of like a more neutral look today. So what I want to do is just put this shade through my crease. Well, actually I kind of mixed these 2 shades through my crease because this one is just a little too light, so it's really nice to like blend out edges of eyeshadow, but it doesn't really create a lot of depth right here where I still need a little bit of definition, and this shade is just too dark for that. This shade is reserved really for my outer corners, so I'm going to kind of mix these 2 shades. I'm going to put this one in my outer corner, and as far as the mattes go, I really hope that you're not experiencing any issues with those because I have literally never had issues blending these specific eyeshadows out. These two especially, they're very soft and very blendable. Now of course the deepest shade you have to be careful with, because these are always quite impactful and they tend to feel almost a little bit more dry, so you have to take your time to apply them and blend them, but I can give my tips and tricks along the way just in case you find that helpful. So I'm just going to basically go into both of these shades like this, going back and forth between the two, loading my brush with those. Those have a very nice neutralish tone to them, neutral cool tone to them. And as you can see, they blend out really well. Now I take a really big blending brush with those because I have quite a lot of space between my moving lid and my eyebrows, as you can see. If you have a smaller area to work with, you don't have to take such a huge brush. You can take something as small as this brush. But because I do, and I prefer to be quite quick with this step because it's kind of like the easiest dummy-proof step in the makeup look, I do go in with my biggest eyeshadow brushes. And it works really well. This specific brush I have from M-Brush by Maxineshka, which is a European-based brand that offers Japanese brushes. I don't know if she really still exists, if I'm being honest with you. I haven't really checked. I think it still does, but you can only really get them through a Polish website store. And I haven't really seen such big makeup brushes offered by a lot of brands. And for someone like me, a brush like this is really, really awesome because, as you can see, it just blows out your eyeshadow perfectly. Now I'm going to move on to the darkest shade in the palette, the darkest matte shade in the palette, which is this burgundy brown shade. Like I said, this is a more pigmented shade. It feels a little bit more dry. I think it feels the driest out of all the mattes in this palette, which is quite normal for shades like this. And I usually use small pencil brushes when I want to apply these types of shades. And I start applying them here, very close. Actually, let me zoom you in. So as I was saying, I like to start applying these eyeshadows here, very close to my lashes, and then I kind of bring them out in this almost like winged eyeliner. I don't bring this eyeshadow up very much because I think that intensifies and makes the look a lot more dramatic, and that's not what I want. I want to keep it subtle. And I specifically, you know, do my outer corners like this because I have small round eyes, as you will notice, and I need a little bit of help in getting that slightly more elongated almond shape to my eyes. It just looks a bit more flattering, I find, without actually having to do wing liner. And I deposited quite a lot of pigment on my brush because I feel relatively confident with my skills that I can apply the shade and blend it out quite easily. But if you feel like you need to be taking your time with this, just load your brush with less product and go in small increments, because dark eyeshadow is like salt in your soup. You can always apply a bit more, but you can never really go back and fix it. Now I always use a glitter glue underneath my metallic eyeshadows because I feel like I get the most out of them that way. With this specific formula, I don't feel like that is really necessary. Just a little trick for those of you who struggle with glitter glue. For instance, I take this much for both of my eyes, and what I do after that is I kind of work the product on the back of my hand, because that kind of shears it out, and then I use my finger to stamp it onto my lids. That is more than enough. You don't need to apply much more glitter glue than that on your eyelids. If you apply too much of glitter glue, your eyeshadow is going to start sticking into all sorts of weird ways. It's going to start bunching up, and that's really not a look you want to be fixing. And it's going to crease faster. You can't see it, but I'm wearing these like legging trousers, which have a little bit of this like more beigey neutral color. So I'm going to, on my lid, apply this shade towards like the very outer edge of the eye, and then this shade all over the whole lid and the outer corner. Now this shade has a very nice satin finish to it. It's a relatively easy shade to work with. So I'm just going to lightly apply it over here, just using a brush. And I think my biggest tip would be when it comes to the metallic eyeshadows in this palette. I usually apply very metallic eyeshadows using my finger because I feel like that way I get the most pigment and impact and metallic sheen out of them. It works really well with certain formulas, but not so much with this one. These have a very thick texture to them. They almost feel like creams. So when you apply them with your finger, they tend to start looking very thick, very textured, and they start to bunch up. So what I've actually noticed is that using a brush with these is much better, because what the brush will do is when you start like moving the product around, it will shear it out. And I actually find that these eyeshadows not only look better in terms of texture on the lid when you apply them like this with a brush, but the metallic sheen also actually becomes much more intense. Like if you apply the product very thickly on your lid, it almost looks like a chunk without really even a lot of metallic sheen to it. However, as soon as you start to almost like do what feels completely unnatural with a metallic eyeshadow, which is this motion, this like swiping motion, they become much more sheer and in my experience much more metallic. So that is the one thing and the one tip that I have really noticed with this specific formula, that it prefers a brush and a bit more of like a swiping motion when applying it. Another trick that I have recently shown you and that I've been using on most days except for the days that I forget, is using my Intensify stick from Pat McGrath Labs to apply here on my lower lash line before I go in with my shadows there, because they tend to last a lot longer and smudge a lot less. Because for me personally, I get a lot of smudging right here into my outer corners over the course of the day, especially if I apply a very dark eyeshadow there. However, with the stick Intensify stick from Pat McGrath, they tend to last really, really long. Going back into the Climax palette and taking this deep burgundy brown shade, and I'm going to try to apply this shade very close here to my lashes. And on the rest of the lashes, I'm going to apply again this more taupe shimmer shade. Okay, and the last step of this makeup, this like meant to be very long lasting makeup, is going to be the lipstick. And there is one lipstick that I can always rely on, will make me look fabulous and last all day feeling comfortable, and that is of course Flash 3 from Pat McGrath. Before I apply Flash 3 though, you can see that I've already applied some other things on my lips, and I just wanted to let you know what my usual steps are for applying lipstick or lip gloss that is meant to last a long time, because as you know, I wear all of my makeup out and about. I actually go to work with it, and my work days are anywhere between 8 and 10 hours long, and then I come home and I take off my lipstick, but I pretty much remain wearing my eyeshadow and the rest of my face makeup until I shower. I'm getting off topic again. I apply the Prep and Prime from MAC, so this is their lip primer, every day before my lipstick, because one, it just smoothens my lips, two, it increases the longevity of my lipsticks, and three, if I have very cream formulas or glosses and I have applied the product also towards the outer perimeters of my lips, I feel like it keeps them at bay a bit, because otherwise product tends to sort of start bleeding on me throughout the day. It still happens, but not as bad as without it. I have also lined my lips with a lip pencil, because I'm almost 40, I don't have very well defined lip lines, and I am also not very skilled when it comes to applying lipstick, so I really need a guide. So with all of that rambling out of the way, we can just quickly apply Flash 3. And this is the final look using the NARS Climax palette. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that the person who asked me to revisit the palette actually came back to watch the video and they found it useful. Please let me know. And with that said, I think I'm just going to start my work day now. Thanks so much for watching as usual, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!